business attorney. He fought for private property rights. You may have seen him. He became nationally famous because he defended Ken Paxton from impeachment. And you saw those hearings. You're like, oh, it was a massacre of those seeking to impeach him. He's now in the Texas State House. He's got his committee assignments. He's a Christian husband, father, business owner, and community leader. He's invested in the future and determined to help shape it. As the state representative from Liberty Hawk Ranch, defending our constitutional freedoms and respecting individual liberty. Welcome. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm so glad to be with you. I firmly believe I have the best district in all of Texas, and I'm so glad that Liberty Hawk Ranch is inside of it.
Well, we're happy to be inside of it too. And this whole constitutional thing, but in our first segment we talked about federalism, and as a constitutional attorney you understand that principle. We talked about how the federal government ought not be funding transgender opera in Latin American nations like they've been doing, or transgender comic books around the world, because there's nothing in here that I see that allows the federal government to pay or do any of those things.
No, absolutely not. And I think we've gone through a decade or so of liberals hollowing out government for their own purposes, basically using it from the inside to advance an ideological agenda, and Trump is day by day dismantling it. I'm very thankful for that. We need to be doing that here in Texas too.
Well, I just had my wife last week on the program. We're talking about MAHA, Make America Healthy. I called her Maha Mama, and she's thrilled that RFK potentially is going to do that in the healthcare arena. And now Elon Musk and Doge. Here's the key. Amendment 10: the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Seems to me like few and well-defined should be the powers of the federal government.
No doubt about it. Our state should have the ability to determine its future to the largest extent possible. Federal government will constantly be engaged in mission creep, trying to grow itself, trying to make itself more influential in the lives of day-to-day Texans, and we need to be fighting those encroachments at every opportunity.
Well, it seems to me the history tells us that the states created the federal government, not the other way around, and therefore the states should be ultimately, they have the most powers. Yeah, the federal government's got important powers, like to provide for the common defense, to make sure that we allow states that do commerce between one another.
About protecting us from invasion.
Protecting from invasion, absolutely. Those are the few and defined powers of the federal government, and yet they have been usurping with things like transgender opera, taking money from Texans to pay for things we don't see a need to pay for.
It's been happening in all aspects of our government. I think one of the significant moves you've seen here in the recent days is the termination of the Department of Education at a federal level. These are things that Texans, we know best how to take care of and educate our kids, and the federal government doesn't need to be involved in that process at all.
I got in a big argument at a political gathering over whether regulation, they said it's inefficient to have local regulations on housing. That's inefficient. We should have a national regulation. And I thought, have you seen the soil of North Texas, the clay soil that we have, and compared to in the Northeast where you want basements, right? We don't get basements in our house here very often. Why would you ever put a one-size-fits-all onto this very diverse nation from topography for real estate? And how can you do that on the people that have differing attitudes, needs, and so forth? It just seems nutty to me.
I don't feel that great about local regulations either, Kevin. The discussion should be happening from the property rights of the individual out, not the other way around.
And yet, if I can meet with you, which we're doing right here, I have a chance to have recourse. But to meet with, and I love Congressman Beth Van Vine. She's my congresswoman, and I really appreciate what she's doing and so forth. But I don't get to meet with her very often, and she has too many people that she represents. It is better to have government. The government that is most local is the one that's most responsive.
No doubt about it. What I've learned after doing this job for about a month, Kevin, is I think there's an intentional effort to overschedule you so you can't be responsive. to the people that put you into office. It's just they keep you bouncing from thing to thing and just constantly distracted.
Well, that's why you get paid so much, right? What is the pay to be a state representative?
It's $600 a month. You don't have to spend it all in one place.
$600. My guess is, and I have no idea, but my guess is your hourly fee as an attorney probably exceeds your monthly pay as a legislator.
The legal pay is better. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, all right. So you've got this bill, Protect Texas Land Act, and the background says across the nation, foreign-owned businesses or those with allegiance to predominantly communist countries, and most especially the People's Republic of China, are taking advantage of American benefits in the American economy. Their ability to purchase and hold land in the state of Texas represents a demonstrable threat to the security of states' access and protections of key infrastructure. What does that mean?
Yeah, so something that came up in the previous election is, and that was a promise of mine from the campaign, is I said, the first opportunity I have after I'm elected, I'm going to file a bill to divest the Chinese Communist Party of its real estate holdings in this state. So you may or may not be aware, the Chinese Communist Party attempted through a partnership to acquire something like 30,000 acres near in Laredo, near the border. So the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in an active influence operation here in Texas. My friend Representative Briscoe Cain represents southeast portion of Houston, and the Chinese Communist Party are attempting to buy a chemical plant there. There are going to be constant efforts to acquire strategic pieces of real estate in Texas. We need to stop that. Last legislative session, the bill was brought over by Senator Lois Kolkhorst to the House. It passed the Senate. It came over to the House and it died in State Affairs, which was chaired by Chairman Todd Hunter. And we never got to have a vote on it in the House. By God's grace, we will have a vote on it this time. This is, to my understanding, one of the major priorities of the session. There are 5 or 6 bills that target this issue. I think mine is the best, and let me explain why. So Arkansas has already passed this bill into law. It's been signed by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and the vehicle for getting rid of the Chinese Communist Party in your state is identifying the real estate that they've acquired and empowering the Attorney General with the ability to sue and divest them of it, almost like an eminent domain process, but not quite. They can basically identify the real estate, and they will, through a lawsuit, have the ability to sell it. My bill also creates, in the office of the Department of Agriculture in Texas, under the Agriculture Commissioner, a Department of Intelligence, so that we can identify land that the Chinese Communist Party or other enemies of the United States are seeking to acquire for strategic purposes. This is something that should have been done 20 or 30 years ago. I think 20 or 30 years from now, we will be looking back and go, how could we ever allow the enemies of the United States to acquire real estate in the state of Texas?
Well, just imagine Nazi Germany acquiring in 1939, 1940, strategic property near military bases or with minerals or plants or whatever. I mean, it would be insane for us to do this. So this is House Bill 1743, the Protect Texas Land Act. And Representative Mitch Little, who's entered this as a campaign promise. You're keeping your promise. I love politicians that keep their word. So excellent job on that. And you can learn more about that. Where would be the best location for people to learn more about this bill? Your website?
Yeah, either on my website through mitchlittlefortexas.com, or you can go through Texas Legislature online and look it up by bill number and read a little bit more about it. I'm expecting that'll get referred to a committee. Probably I may go to State Affairs again. There are 5 or 6 bills that are competing for this purpose in the House. Some of them have teeth, some of them don't. We want to make sure that we get a good bill through. One of the problems that you're seeing in the state of Arkansas is the Biden administration had been fighting Arkansas on this bill and trying to enjoin it as federally preempted. I think now that we've got Trump in office, the outlook is a lot more rosy.
Yeah, no, and that's an important thing you got to realize is that sometimes they'll put a bill through